Welcome back to the show, guys. Today I've got or I should say Bobby Patton joining me. He's an Army veteran, founder and CEO of Sheath Underwear, and now the official underwear partner of the UFC. So Robert, let's dive straight in, right? You were the Army sergeant in the Iraqi desert around 2008, and that's when the idea of Sheath Underwear actually came to you. Your first production run, it was in 2010, which unfortunately failed, completely set you back about 3 years, and during that time, you actually apprenticed under Vietnamese tailor to learn garment construction from scratch before relaunching on Kickstarter in 2013. So just walk me through that entire arc.
Nice. Yeah. So, I was in the Army. I had joined because I was kind of desperate when I was 26. I had a dead end job in a payroll department. I had exhausted all of my college tuition funds that my grandparents had left me. I took out all these loans and couldn't pay them back. And the Army was offering bonuses and paying back your student loans
Yep.
in a kind of a desperate situation. Even though I'm patriotic, I also just did it because I had no other options and joined the Army. Loved it, was doing really well. I quite enjoyed the basic training and the shooting and the PT, like the physical training and land navigation and all these things. But I always wanted something more. I had been reading books since my early 20s because, like I said, I joined at 26. I read Think and Grow Rich. I would read it over and over, just absorbing that material about desire and wanting it and visualizing and manifesting and all these things. So as I'm in the Army, I'm still kind of in that mindset. Even though I love the Army, I didn't necessarily want to be have that be my life. And I remember before my second tour, I watched this movie called The Secret, and
Yep.
it's also, I think it was derived from Think and Grow Rich or a lot of different success principles books, which I love reading. I highly recommend the audience read books about how to better yourself, or, like Think and Grow Rich in particular tells these stories of young men in particular that should not have been successful. Like all the odds were stacked against them, but they overcame the odds. They went for their dream and achieved it. And I would literally cry like of inspiration reading these stories. And fast forward, I'm in Iraq on my second tour. I made a vision board while I was in Iraq, which you're familiar with vision
Yep.
boards.
Yep.
Yeah. And I still make a vision board every year to this day. I still have not gotten my plane because I have like a plane in every single vision board. But a lot of the things that I put on there have manifested. And so I make this vision board. And then one day in particular, it's extremely hot. So, it's Iraq in the summer.
Yep.
I'm in the Army. We're wearing all of our gear. Generators are out. There's no water. And I'm just like sweating balls. It's like gnarly and super uncomfortable. And it was one of those situations where they say necessity is the mother of invention. I was so uncomfortable that I was like, I need to separate the situation downstairs here because it's like, and every guy has done that by separating,
Yep.
unsticking, but this was on another level. So I went inside, I grabbed a little, like a little hand towel, like a little tiny towel, and just I stuffed it in my pants and kind of like relieved the situation. But when that happened, I had the idea, like what if there was a pouch on the inside that I could just put everything in and keep it from just I didn't want any skin on skin contact. It was so like grimy, and I apologize for the audience, but it was uncomfortable. You just have to understand the circumstances I was in, when you can't shower for days in this sweltering heat in Iraq and
Yeah.
you're all the stuff. Okay. So I had the idea, and I had just watched the movie The Secret, and like one of the phrases that stuck out the most is like the universe likes speed. When you have an inspiration, don't wait, take action. And so I'm like, I'm in Iraq. I just had this idea. And actually, we'll just say that I decided to make it for myself right then and there in Iraq. So I go to the store, I buy some fresh underwear. I got a pen and pad and like start drawing out kind of the design I was seeing in my mind. I take it to the tailors in Iraq, show them the drawings, and ask them to sew this pouch on the inside of the underwear. And they laughed at me, but they did it. I came back a few days later and I had the very first prototype made in Iraq, which is unique in and of itself. You know, who could
Yep.
say that they designed a, a new kind of pair of underwear in a war zone in Iraq and actually made it there. I have this picture of me holding it while I was there. And of
You should send
course,
that through after. I want to see it.
I have it on, I think it's on the, I'll have to send it to you, but it's on the original Kickstarter, I think. And it's on the internet somewhere. You know, it's around. We've been around since like initially 2010, like you said,
Yep.
which was a failed launch because I was so excited to get this out to the world. I rushed the production. I should have gone through a couple more iterations. So let me show you real quick for those of your audience that are watching. This is a pair of sheath. Okay. So it looks like regular underwear on the
Yep.
outside, but on the inside, there's this pouch for the boys. But the original pair, the pouch was like way high. It was way up here. So, and you can imagine how that might be uncomfortable.
I see that. Yeah. I can see why you do that. But yeah, that makes sense why it wouldn't work afterwards. Damn.
Yeah. So I was, I was kind of delusional at the time. I was handing them out to neighbors and friends, and they were kind of giving me this awkward feedback about like, it's all right, but they didn't really like it. And it took me a little while, not too long, a couple months at least, though, to come to the conclusion that it was just not a sellable product. And so some time goes by. I end up getting out of the Army. And like you mentioned earlier, I went and worked at a tailor. So at this time, I'm out of the Army, I'm going to school. And in the US, if you get out of the Army, you get like this GI Bill, which is, it'll pay for your school and pay you to go to school while you're in school. So
Oh, damn.
I'm going for my bachelor's degree, which I got in organizational development. And then right afterwards, I didn't even stop. I went straight for my master's because I wanted to keep getting that money, right? Because
Yep.
I was, it doesn't hurt to get money, right? Okay. So, but during that time, I'm working for free at this tailor, Tony. It was Elite Tailoring in San Antonio, Texas. I had moved to San Antonio in this time frame, and I'm in Colorado now to give some context, and that's where I was when I first launched Sheath, but I moved to Texas. So anyways, and I was living with my mom, and I was
Okay.
also working part-time at a golf course, cleaning golf carts. I was delivering Chinese food just to show like I was just doing whatever I had to do to get back to where I needed to be. And I'm going to school, I'm working with Tony, and we just worked on patterns, and I gave him my idea, and he helped me develop it. And I 3 years ended up going by, and it was right. I was right about to finish my bachelor's degree. I
Yep.
mean, my master's degree. So the money was right about to stop coming in. And that's when we did the Kickstarter. We presented, we had this prototype, we put it online, and people were into it. They pre-ordered. We had 250 people, which isn't that many in the grand. We get like almost that many orders every day now. But at the time, it helped pre-fund our initial purchase because I didn't have any extra money. And to a degree, we're off to the races. Like I made the order, got the batch, we sent out all the orders, and that was so fun. We're packaging 250 orders. I had my friends with me. We were all living in by this time, I'm living in a house with about 4 other individuals, my brother and a few friends. And we had it, it took all day. We packaged all these orders, we shipped them out, everyone's happy. They start repurchasing. We end up selling out getting close to selling out. So I bought more from the same company, but the second batch was botched. It was bad. I could not sell it. So now I'm like back to square one again because I sent them all my money. Now I have a product that I can't sell again. And I am just like, okay, what do we do now? And in my genius mind, the only thing I could think of was do another Kickstarter. However, we got to find another manufacturer because this last one kind of screwed us over. And so this is where like the secret again and the manifesting and the universe and vibrations and all this kind of comes into play, because it's going to test you when you
Yes.
are trying to build something. It's not going to just be this easy stroll down the path with no obstacles. You're going to get tested. But by not, I feel like by not even considering for a moment to quit, the universe blessed us with a gift. And that gift came in the form of an email from another manufacturer asking if they could make us a sample. And we just so happened to need a new manufacturer at the time. So I rushed them one of the good samples, and what they sent us back was better than what I sent them. It was so good.
Okay.
Yeah, it
Okay.
was like I was so happy with that, because now I gotta do another Kickstarter, and your whole future is in jeopardy. It's on the line, you don't know if it's gonna be successful or not, and there's a lot of anxiety that is associated with this type of waiting. You're waiting, we gotta do
Of
another
course.
Kickstarter. Are we gonna be successful? And I told this story before, but I would be laying in bed riddled with anxiety. I'm just like freaking out about the future, which we've all probably experienced. But I
Yeah.
would go into my closet, grab that sample, and put it on, and I would just be reassured because it was so good. I was like, this is going to kill. This is going to blow up. We're going to be six. There was no doubt in my mind that if we could sell the product I was wearing at that time, we were going to be fine, And yeah, so needless to say, we did another Kickstarter. It was successful. We doubled the revenue from the previous Kickstarter. And from that point on, we just doubled and doubled every year for like 7 years, up until right after COVID hit. Like COVID was our best year ever because everyone was at home buying stuff online. We made
Yep.
$4 million, 4.2 million. And then but then like the economy starts getting a little funky, and there's so many pouch underwear companies now that sell underwear with pouches. But the competition has increased, which is typically what happens when you have a good idea. People start to try to get in on your game. And so the last few years have actually been rather challenging. And then with tariffs, like last year we had the tariff situation.
Yep.
And just one quick clarification, are not the official underwear of the UFC anymore. We were, but we had to like kind of back out gracefully because it was $1 million. And granted, like we only make like 4 million ish a year, so we were giving them like, and you think when you partner with the UFC, you're gonna blow up, but we didn't. I mean, it was fine. We paid them everything we owed them. We paid them the $1 million, and it was great. And I got to experience some really cool things, like meeting Joe Rogan and all the fighters that are, John Jones, and all the best fighters in the world. We were able to like just meet and greet and whatever. It was really one of the coolest experiences. But we're kind of just trying to consolidate our restructure everything, to be
Mm-hmm.
more little conservative, maybe start, saving some money instead of just like I would spend every dollar that came in on advertising and product, even payroll was secondary.
That makes
And
sense.
especially for myself, I barely pay myself. I mean, and I live well, but like my friend makes, his company does $1 million a year, and he pays himself 300,000, which is like incredible for me. I'm like, I don't make 300,000. I make like 100,000, and but we're still, because I just really feel like reinvesting everything back into the company, and I still do that to this day. But now we're more just very careful with your advertising budget, because advertising is a gamble. Every single time, you don't know if that money is going to come back to you. It's literally like going to Vegas and putting it on the crap table or whatever. I mean, to a degree, there is
Yeah.
a little bit more certainty when it, like, because like we have some partners we've been with for years, and they keep producing new customers for us. But when you're trying a new partner, which primarily sponsor fighters,
Hmm.
podcasters, and YouTubers, and then of course Facebook and Google and
Okay, I see.
TikTok and stuff. Yeah, but
All right. I mean, those sorts of questions about that, we also have some questions for that as well, which we'll get into. But in terms of the story, that's pretty inspirational, to be honest. And it's gone from like, you serving in the army, right? The first launch kind of not going as you intended. And then to now, you even got to a point where you were partnering with the UFC. And I believe, we'll get onto this, but I believe they actually wanted to partner with you, was it? Or something along the lines, right? Well, we will get onto that. But I think that's super inspirational, man. I think it's really
thank
cool.
you.
I like the story, man. So now, in terms of nowadays, right? Between running Sheath, right, as a CEO and general manager as well, I believe, and you also host your own podcast with over, I think, like 100 plus episodes, right, which is pretty cool as well. What does a typical week look like for you?
Well, it all starts on Monday. We have I'm in our warehouse, which is behind me, and I work 1 day a week in the warehouse with
Okay,
my team to just kind of stay at the ground level, see what's happening, keep an eye on trends and what's selling, what's not selling, and also to show my team that I'm not better than them. I don't,
yep,
I'm not just barking orders. I will get down dirty with them and do what needs to be done. And then, so that usually takes a few hours in the morning. Then we have our Monday morning meeting in the afternoon, which is going over our previous week's notes, agendas, new the new launches, new advertising opportunities. We typically read a book as a team and go, it's kind of like a book club. So we'll go over that for a few minutes. Right now we're reading a book called Peak, which we just started, but it's starting off really cool. It's about the human mind and the ability to learn new things and master new like languages or music or whatever it might be that you're trying to learn.
that's pretty cool.
And
I've never,
it's a quite
I've
fascinating
never,
book.
I've never heard that before. So you guys actually read books as a team. This is
Yeah.
a wow. I've never heard of that sort of like work environment. To be honest, that's pretty cool. I like it. That's good. In terms of
Yeah.
the
It brings us together. Go ahead.
That's good, yeah. And you said you also want to be there to show them that, you're just like one of them as well. I think I like the work environment. I think that's pretty cool, man. In terms of the podcast as well, how long do you usually spend, you know, divide your time across that as well?
Well, I'd taken a little bit of a break
Yeah.
because my wife and I decided to foster some children, and
Okay.
that was taking quite a bit of my time and attention. But this is a new office that I'm in, and I'm setting it up. So as soon as it's fully set up, I will be bringing back the podcast. I've done one. I did one a couple months ago, and I was doing them every week, like you're supposed to do them every week. And I did that for many years. But this past year, I basically took a little bit of a break. But and I have been more of a guest on other podcasts, which I
Yep.
actually like being a guest because it gives me the opportunity to reach new audiences and tell my story. So it's not like I haven't been doing podcasts. I just haven't really been doing my own, but it's called the Robert Patton Global podcast.
Yep.
It's still on YouTube. You can see typically would interview fighters, a lot of fighters, just because I had access to world champions and high level, like high ranking UFC fighters, or
Yep.
maybe lower division fighters, business owners, best-selling authors, and we would talk about the principles of success, like what it took for them to get to where they are, and so that people can see. It's kind of like my version of Think and Grow Rich on a podcast, talking to individuals who have made something of themselves and to see how they did it. That's what will continue here very shortly. We're like right there in terms of getting back. I would say before the end of the summer, I'll be back to doing podcasts on my
That's good.
show.
That's good. So I can tell that you're someone that's very like, I guess, the whole manifestation thing, right? All about the mindset stuff. You're quite big on that, I can see, right?
Yeah, it's all about that, isn't it?
Yeah,
And
that is
action.
true. I mean, I agree. That's why I'm even bringing it up. Like, I have literally my wallpaper on the actual laptop. I can see it a little bit here. Is like a mood board sort of thing that you were talking about at the start. So, I understand it, which is why I think it's pretty cool as well, man. All right, then. So, my next question to you was, in your personal opinion, what's something that you think most other brands that, do apparel, right? What do you think they get wrong as they try and scale past their first few millions? What do you think they do wrong?
It's funny because I feel like in terms of underwear companies, there's one of our biggest rivals is this company called Shynasty, and they're actually here in Colorado. It's another underwear company out of Colorado, and they're actually way bigger than us. But they make these prints that are so obnoxious and absurd that I can't. I'm like, why would people buy these? But people buy them. And what I mean is, it'll have like an elephant trunk or a hot dog bun or a bald eagle or something right on the crotch area. And these signs are so corny and just silly, but people buy them. So we try to keep it more like classic and or not classic, classy.
Hmm.
Like if you look at this pair behind me,
Is that
I
one new, by the way?
it's brand new.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think because on the website when I was checking it, it said something about patent pending on that one. So I was thinking, oh, it
Yeah.
must be new. Yeah.
It's yeah, it's brand new. I just kind of had I had a vision of that. A lot of the designs are still myself. Of course, we use AI to generate the initial concept
Okay.
now because we have that capability. And one of my team members, when AI first started getting in the mainstream, he just really got like focused on it, and he's come so far along with because you can use it for images, you can use it for
Yep.
video, you can use it for data analytics and automation. I'm so grateful for him because he's our Amazon guy. He just made sure we had products on Amazon and made sure we were getting sales on Amazon. But he took a vested interest, and it's really been beneficial for us as a company. You know, this is bad, but we used to have 3 graphic designers, and now we have just him, and he can do like everything from photo editing, everything we have on our website, he has like modified. We'll typically obviously take pictures. We still do photo shoots, but he can take a photo of a pair of underwear and then do some wizardry with AI and and it helps get the remainder of the shots without having to take all of the shots. Or with models, he can like this particular pair I was showing earlier, we have it in 4
Yep.
different colors. So we took one picture of a model in this pair of underwear, and then he was able to change the color of the pattern to match our other 3 versions. And it just
Yep.
it cuts down work, it increases efficiency, and you didn't ask this, but our team is very small. I mean, it's 10 people, and a lot of us work remotely. Like half of my team is still in San Antonio, where I was when I was working at the tailor and living with my mom. Now I live back in Colorado, and I have a few, like 4 team members here, and then 5 in Texas, and 1 is in Florida. So, with the power of the internet, we are able to function as a team remotely, and we meet up a few times a year, and but that's the thing. Like we actually get our best work done when we're all together.
That
So
makes
we
sense.
try to, yeah,
That
yeah.
does make sense. So knowing that now, do you think that there's anything that a lot of apparel founders, like CEOs, etc., what do you think they get wrong when it comes to scaling their business? Do you think there's anything that they do that you think this isn't good?
Um, let's see. I mean, I would. It's tough to say what they're doing wrong because I don't necessarily know how they're managing their company. I would say for new founders trying to start a company now, especially if you're importing from China or out of the country with tariffs, so much more difficult now, even for existing companies, let alone someone trying to start a brand new company. Because when I started, the tariffs were essentially non-existent. I mean, I didn't even factor that into the cost of manufacturing. Now you have to take that into consideration. I think that in terms of advertising, I feel like we have a good broad kind of diversity in terms of advertising. I think, okay, advertising on TV, I think that's a bad idea. I think that's
Okay.
probably not a great expenditure of funds because it's just like there's no link to click. It's hard to attribute where your sales are coming from when you're advertising on TV. Although also we're considering it, we think about it. It's just like really expensive and most people are online. So what, I mean,
Yeah,
why are you going to advertise on a show? I mean, but then on podcasts, which we sponsor a lot of podcasts on YouTube, you can also skip those ads, just like fast forward through the ads. I do it, not all the time.
same.
Yeah, but okay, and something we were doing wrong that maybe other companies might
Mm.
not do well is just really having a full accounting of all your expenses, just magnifying glass, zooming in on where the money's going and cutting out repetitive expenses. You might have subscribed to some website or whatever and you don't check, like there's like Dropbox and WeTransfer and like Tinify. There's all these little subscriptions that I found that we had been paying for years that we weren't even using. Here's a little plug for a company called Rocket Money, and
Yep.
you might hear about it on other podcasts or whatever. You plug in all of your different credit cards and bank accounts, and then it puts them all together, and you can see your expenses. And you might have duplicate subscriptions for things,
No, I've never heard that, but if you found
Yeah.
that, then that's
I
crazy.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, for I mean, this is more on a personal level. For like, you might have two Netflix accounts or two. I remember I had two ESPN accounts, just for instance, because obviously big on UFC, and I would watch it every weekend. And I was like, oh man, I accidentally signed up twice for that. So just really being, you gotta, like, it's not the Wild West anymore. Like, it's very competitive now. You can't just, it's not going to be as easy as it used to be. I mean, it was so easy those first 7 years when I said we were doubling in revenue annually. I can't really imagine a scenario where a new company is going to have, especially in my market of underwear in general or pouch underwear, where you're just going to see that growth. So you're going to have to be extremely conservative with your expenses and really responsible with everything you're doing. It's not just like introduce a product and you're going to go to the moon. You have to save money for a rainy day and things. And I
Okay.
mean, and we typically never take loans because you want to, like, I've taken loans over the years of like maybe 3 or 4 times. But the benefit of taking a loan sometimes is getting ahead of a season. Like last year, we didn't take a loan where we probably should have, because and then when January came around, we didn't have that much inventory when I
Okay.
and so sales were down. Whereas if I would have just taken a loan, paid the $10,000 of interest that it was going to cost, we would have made an extra 60 grand or 100 or
Okay.
whatever. So this year actually started off really low. It's a constant learning process, like it's always, there's always something new, especially like I was saying with AI. And I
100%.
feel like we're ahead of the curve, thankfully, thanks to our one employee. And now we're all, I have a Claude, I got Chat, I got Gemini, but we're asking it sometimes like, okay, what should I do in this situation? And it's so having that level of expertise available to you is very helpful these days.
That makes sense. I was going to ask you about AI. Let me see here. Hold on. Oh, yeah, there it is. Yeah. It's a couple questions down. We're going to get onto that as well, because obviously AI, really big thing right now. And you're already telling me that it's helping you out in a ton of ways. So now, but the next question I had was, so the dual pouch design is actually patented, as I said earlier, right? But I want you to take me from your original sketch in the desert, right, to what's actually engineered in the Sheath 4.0 today.
Okay, so the very first pouch when I was in Iraq, it was a little square,
Yeah.
and it was actually kind of little. So when I tried to use it, it was like tight, and but the concept was there. And when I
Yep.
got home from Iraq, I bought a sewing machine. I started altering all of my underwear, and what I tried to do is create this it's more flexible, it's extremely flexible, but also has kind of like a U-shaped pattern to conform to the body. And there
Yep.
was no dual pouch, because now we have this circular seam pouch for
Okay.
the
The other
full
bit.
male
Yep.
anatomy. Exactly. And you don't have to use that, but it's actually quite easy. like when you put them on, everything just kind of slides into place. Not a lot of fiddling around. Just everything kind of just goes where it's supposed to go, which is quite nice. And that's just to eliminate all skin on skin contact. And that I remember that happened in 2018. I was laying in bed and I had the idea for that. And I was thinking again, I got to get on this. And I went straight to my computer, went to the USPTO, that's the United States Patent and Trademark Office website, and filed for the provisional patent to just get it in there so that if anybody else tried, I would have been there first or whatever. You don't want to be second in that scenario. You need to be the first one there. But you have to be really careful with the paperwork because if you like miss a deadline, and you got to read the whole thing. Because I remember there was one point in time where I was like, oh, they got it and it looks like we're going to the next step. And then a few months later, I get a message saying that I missed some kind of deadline. And then I go back to the original paperwork and I'm reading and reading. And the very last page, it said respond by this date or whatever. And so I had to start over, and ultimately hired a lawyer to help with getting everything moved through.
Oh,
And
okay.
um, luckily at that point, we were making money. And yeah, and it's their lawyers aren't that expensive, but they are. Here's a mistake. We're actually getting sued right now, which is kind of funny. By
What?
so it's someone who's visually impaired. Okay, they came to our website, and we have something in the United States called the American with Disabilities Act, and it's kind of like if you own a restaurant and you don't have a wheel ramp for someone with a wheelchair, they
Okay.
can sue you. Okay, so if a blind person can't purchase easily on your website, they can sue you, apparently. And so we're going through that process right now. And we were like, they had to really search for some like parts of the website that were not easily accessible, because we were on top of it. We had already addressed that, but there was like 3 areas where he couldn't, like the functionality wasn't perfect. And I mean, it's literally a scam. Like this law firm that this guy's working with, they just find websites, look for areas that are not perfect, and then they'll send you a letter and say, okay, give us 15 grand or we're gonna we're gonna sue you. So I ignored that initial request a few months ago, and then
They
now
sued
there's
you.
a lawsuit in the federal court. But I have a
What?
lawyer. We'll ultimately end up settling, but it's just like there's so many like potholes along the way where
What
you
does that
just have
even
to
consist of? What does that even consist of? Like what? So you said he's blind, the person. So what does he need on the website that you didn't have, for example?
everything has to be audible. So when he
Okay.
moves his mouse over an image, it
Oh,
has to describe the image, or
okay.
and then maybe it's the buy button should say, okay, buy button or whatever. I don't fully know, but essentially it's everything has to be audio available. Very, I don't fully get it. If he would have just reached out to us or called us, we would have helped him also. But they didn't really have a problem. He's saying it caused him so much stress, right? It's like, come on, dude. We know this is a scam, but okay, you got me. I'll pay you, I guess, because I don't have a choice. Like, it's a legitimate law claim, and until our legislative branch makes a law or something to address it,
That
they
is
can
crazy.
just, yeah, they can just do that. And I think they're making a living off of finding websites and basically taking advantage of us. They wouldn't do that to Amazon or
No,
Facebook or like these
no,
giant websites. They just do it for like mid-level kind of websites.
because
And
they know that,
yeah.
because they know they'd probably lose. If they did that, they know that they'd probably
Yeah.
lose. That's all right. So, yeah. I think, so my next question here to you is, it's actually about the UFC. So I saw that, of course. So Sheath, you did say you no longer are, but you guys became the official underwear partner of the UFC in April 2024. And that actually happened without you ever taking outside investors. And it was only built on years of relationships, right, with fighters like Donald Cerrone, right? So how did that
hmm
actually come together? I want to know.
It was so wild. I check my emails every morning, and I was doing what I normally do, but I also get a lot of solicitation emails from everyone, right? All the time wanting us to advertise with them. So I kind of just scrolled past it. But I saw that little UFC mark at the bottom of the email, but I didn't think it was real. But it kind of like lingered in the back of my mind. And I remember I was laying in bed, but it was kind of like morning time. And I'm like, maybe that was real. Let me go double check that. So I go back, I open it up, and it was a guy named Kia. He was a sales rep for the UFC, and he wanted us to work with them. And I think it had to do with us working with so many fighters, like you mentioned in the leading up to. I mean, it had been 10 years of working with fighters and other smaller fight organizations like Fury Fighting Organization, Fighting Alliance, which are the feeder, like organizations where
Yeah,
fighters
to the
then
UFC.
go. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, like for Fury, for instance, the ring girls would be wearing Sheath. The fighters would have our logo on their shorts. And I remember Dana White went to a Fury fighting night, and he took a picture with all the girls, and that was really cool. So we of course put that on our social media. But just really being involved heavily in the fighting world more than any other underwear company, period. They reached out, and we did a couple test runs because I ended up calling him that morning when I had that realization that it might be real. I call him. It was a Saturday morning, and he was like, he had been partying all night at a bachelor party, and so he kind of woke up in a stupor. But he took the call because that's his job, and we had a nice little 20-minute conversation, and decided to do a test run. And to do a test, they gave us kind of like a bro deal, like a good price. It was $30,000, and I felt like it went well. Then we did another one, and then we decided to sign up for the full year in 2024. And we were part of UFC 300, which was one of the best fight cards of all time. There's so
Which one
much
was that
footage of
again?
us.
Which one was that?
It was when Holloway knocked out Justin Gaethje in that last like second.
In the center, yeah. When
Yeah, he was like pointing down, and Pereira fought something Hill,
oh,
and
Jamal Hill,
knocked
that
him
was it.
out. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Okay, so you're a fan. Okay, yeah, yeah.
I wouldn't say I'm like the biggest fan out there, but I do watch it. I watched you must have seen the Conor McGregor fight as well the other day.
I did.
Within like the
Yeah.
first minute, he just messed up his knee. But
Yeah,
yeah,
there's the people aren't happy about that, but I hope he gets better. Patty did really well, and it's
yeah,
funny
I saw
because
that too.
he was so annoying to me for the first few fights. I didn't like his whatever he was doing, but he's actually really good. And now I actually like him now, and I definitely respect him as a fighter.
Yeah, he's from around not like here, but he's a Scouser, so he's up. I think a bit more up north in the UK. That's why.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's more
Liverpool?
around
I
there.
don't know.
Yeah, that's it, Liverpool. Yeah, so he's from Liverpool.
Hmm.
So it's only like a couple hours away from me.
Right on. Yeah, I've yet to visit the UK, but I would like
Is it
to.
something? Yeah, you should, man. I mean, you know what? I do think America's better, in my opinion, right? So there's that. That's pretty interesting, though. So usually you'd probably be the one reaching out to them, but they reached out to you because of how you position yourself. That's pretty cool, man. I think so. This is actually something that you were. The next question is something that you were talking about earlier, and it was about running a lean team, right? So you guys that might have changed now, but you have under 25 people. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
And
we have 10 people.
10 people now. Okay. That makes sense. I thought it would change, right? Because I was about to say, so are you using any AI or any automations in the business right now? Whether that's for operations, customer service, marketing, right? Walk me through it.
Okay. Well, we do not use it for customer service. If you contact our customer service team, that's 4 of our 10 people is customer service.
Okay.
Just to make sure. Hey, we had one person doing it for like years, and she got so burnt out. We only have them working like 2 days a week
Okay.
each, give or take, because there's 4 of them, and they rotate, or each quarter they change the days that they're working so that they don't get burnt out and stuff. In terms of marketing, it's try not to use AI photos like generated specific, like directly on AI. If anything, we'll use it to modify photos
Okay.
because Supposedly people don't like that. I don't really know or care, but my team tells me it's not good to do that. And also it's hard to generate images of models in underwear. There's a limitation on AI platforms where they think it's porn related or something, so they will
Bit too
not.
extreme, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Doesn't,
yeah.
yeah, that.
In terms of one of the most beneficial things, which is rather new, is analyzing our daily sales per product, per SKU, per size, and then using that information for our next purchase order,
Okay.
because just doing that in your brain is, we're pretty limited. And I mean, we have 1,000 different SKUs and we know our best sellers, but it's hard to gauge what exactly to order by utilizing all this historic data. That's not accurate, but whatever, data from the previous 2 years
Yep.
to determine our upcoming purchases. It's more efficient, so we're not ordering stuff that isn't selling. You have A grade, B grade, C grade products. The A grade is the top 15%, I think, and the B grade is the second 15, and then the rest is C grade or something along those lines. And just like, don't order C grade because it's not moving. Order A and B and order a lot of it. So that is probably one of the most beneficial new
Okay.
advancements in terms of AI, utilizing AI in our company.
So you've been using it for like forecasting essentially, really, like
Yeah,
stock forecasting. That's not one I've actually heard too much before, but that's good. Like it makes sense why you'd want that, right? Especially in terms of cash flow. That's really good.
exactly.
Is there anything that you like want to use it for, right? Or you're trying to learn how to use it for, etc., or something that interests you?
I mean, I would love to be able to make a full commercial utilizing AI, just type in the concept and have it generate um, the full video. I mean, I think that we're not too far off from that, because and that's not even our biggest expense. Commercials that we make. I mean, we just spent $30,000 on a new commercial, was rather expensive. And then you put it online and you get 26 views. It's like, that stings. So I would rather put that money towards an established YouTuber or podcaster that has an audience that trusts them
Mm-hmm.
to advertise. But that's like the next frontier, I think. Also, if we could get it to maybe sort through my inbox, because like emails are a pretty big bottleneck for me. I get so many emails. It's like, okay, get rid of all the garbage and just tell me what's good. Mating, there's still little minutia of the daily process for some of my workers where we get all these orders and
Yep.
sometimes you get 2 orders or 3 orders from the same person. Go ahead and combine that, allocate it. We have 2 warehouses, one in Texas and one here in Colorado,
I see.
and allocate it to the appropriate warehouse. Make sure the inventory is available, because sometimes one warehouse will have it and the other warehouse won't. Very rarely, but every now and then. And just like automating little, I mean, there's so many things now. I use Whisperflow, which I love. If you haven't tried it, it is the best thing ever. It basically, you can type your emails with your voice and it's so smart. I listened to Diary of a CEO with
Talk.
Stephen Bartlett, and
Yep.
he's the best. I would love to sponsor his podcast. I love that guy. Um, and and then there's Otter, which is a kind of takes notes on your meetings.
Okay, I haven't
Um,
heard of that one. I've heard of the Whisper one. I have that as well. I use it, right? But you said
yeah,
Otto. You said, yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of
yeah.
tools, even some of the tasks that you were talking about earlier in terms of, for advertisement, for sorting through your inbox, for, those sort of stuff, automations. It is actually quite possible to do with AI. Like even in its current state, you can do a lot of it. If you have someone that does know what they're doing, they can do it. So it's
Uh,
advanced pretty quickly. Like, it's just crazy.
yeah. I mean, and right now Fable's out,
Yeah,
and my dude that's our AI guy,
yeah.
he's all over it. And so he plugged into Amazon, he plugged into Shopify, and he is automating, just putting products into Amazon. Amazon's a beast and it's not easy to work with and just getting products on Amazon can be quite challenging, but he seems to have figured out a way to do it like by prompting AI
Okay.
with these API connections to the two websites. So it'll take the stuff from Shopify and
Put it
create a
right over to there.
file. Yeah, and then you upload it and it seems to be working. So
That's pretty impressive as well. It sounds like you got, someone that knows what they're doing with AI. That's good. That's the guy that you were talking about earlier, isn't it? You said he does the same thing where he takes the one color of the underwear and he changes it to the other. Yeah, that's the same guy.
yep.
Now, if you could have, if you had a magic wand and you could wave it and you could fix one thing about Sheath's operations or marketing right now, what would you say it would be?
I mean, quick answer, I would like to get some of these robots, that work in our warehouses and just do all the things that need to be done in a warehouse. But because we have employees in the warehouse, but they're actually really good and they don't cost like that much. And like in the overall expenses of the company, it's a very small portion of our budget. But I feel like that would be pretty cool. Maybe automating content because social media is every day you have to feed the beast and new
Yep.
posts on every single platform, and we're using it to create or like help edit content, but to have it just actually create it itself, post it, and like I said, make commercials that are just amazing and high def and riveting. Just I think those few things would be quite nice for us.
I see you going on about the advertisement, or what do you call it? The commercial, right? So it sounds like if AI could make commercials for you, you'd be super happy, right?
Yeah, totally.
That makes sense, especially with how much you said one of those commercials cost you. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
You also mentioned somewhere that cutting your ad budget by 50%, and you actually had your best year ever after you cut your ad budget by 50%. So where was that growth actually coming from? Was it the repeat customers? Were you sending out emails, text messages, organic, or was it the UFC? Walk me through that as well.
Yeah, good question. So, we did hire an email company to manage our emails and our texts, and
Yep.
we have because we have so many existing customers from the decade plus, almost 2 decades now that we've been in business, and we never really like to use or abuse them. And I don't think that we do abuse it, but we're definitely taking more advantage of that existing customer base. But also just, when you're spending 100 grand a month in advertising and you take that down to 50 in sales, we didn't necessarily grow, but weren't spending as much. So by not spending, what's 50 times 12? I think it's like 600,000.
Is
So
that
we say,
600,000?
you're saving 600 grand.
So it's just extra profit.
Yeah, that's so it was more profit, not necessarily more revenue. Yeah.
I mean, that's the most important thing anyway. Other stuff can
Yeah.
be a bit of a vanity metric. So that makes sense. So what would you say that growth came from then in terms of, because you cut down the spend. So then, normally you'd think, oh, my revenue is going to halve as well. Right. So what do you think kept it at that thing? Do you think it was the emails and texts? Is that what you think it was?
That was a big part of it, but also being more critical of our existing advertising partnerships in terms of evaluating their success with each particular video, whether it's making sure we're getting the views, making sure we're getting enough code usages, incorporated a after purchase survey to
Okay.
kind of ask, where you heard about us. Did you have any difficulties in using the website? It's a lot of things, but just being way more um, like evaluating every single aspect of our advertising budget and
Okay.
expenses.
So I see what you're trying to say here. You're trying to say that even though you cut down the ad spend, right, you're more on your advertisement team, right? What you're actually doing, right? More in touch with the customers essentially as well. Okay. That makes sense. I mean, that's how things usually go, right? The more you
Yeah.
put effort into it, yeah, it doesn't have to, you don't have to spend too much. All right, then. This actually, we're on to our final question, and then I have like a little thing at the end. But if you did have a time machine back to, the first failed batch in 2010, what's the one thing that, now that you know everything that you know now, what's the one thing that you do differently?
Don't rush the production.
Okay.
You don't want to wait too long to go to production, but also I could have taken another couple of extra months of back and forth with the initial manufacturer to make it better to release to the public, because we would have been in the game 3 years earlier, and we would be that much further ahead now if we hadn't rushed that initial production. But everything kind of happens for a reason. Another thing I would say though is just you do want to save some money. Like put aside 5-10% of daily sales, which we do now, and just for whatever, because shit comes up, you know.
Yeah, that is true. And for everyone watching here, if they want to find out about Sheath or even the Robert Patton Global Podcast, where can they go to find it?
Thank you. Sheath.com, sheathunderwear.com, the same place. At Sheath on all the socials, or at Sheath Underwear. And then I'm at Bobby the Bank on socials. I'm not terribly active, but I'm out there. The Robert Patton Global Podcast on YouTube. Check it out. I think we had some gems in there worth having a listen to.
That makes sense, man. And I think that rounds up all of our questions. Obviously, I'll put all the links for Sheath, Robert Patton Global Podcast. It will be in the link anyway, right? So they should be able to find it even easier. But that's it for the show, guys. And great thank you to Bobby for joining as well. And I'll catch you guys on the next episode. Thank you, Bobby.
Thanks, guys. Thank you, Mustafa. I appreciate it. That was fun.